This is an interesting one. This just happened a couple of days ago. And this is about the CloudFlare incident. And so we're going to go over some of the incident, some of the terms, mitigations, all that fun stuff. And let's see if we can't break down this little oopsie. So first, I want to throw out the credits and the references. Definitely used Notebook LM, Google Gemini, and I think it's still Imagen in Google Slides. It might be Nano, Banana, Banana. And then some of the actual news and or blogs I researched was the Cloudflare Postmortem blog, Bleeping Computer, and The Guardian TechCrunch for the coverage. And so the short story is there's a safety mechanism in Cloudflare software. It backfired. A minor update to their database accidentally triggered a hard stop and their system crashed. And so it also fluctuated a little bit. So the challenge kept fluctuating up and down because there was like 5-minute checks or something like that. So the overall summary, a little bit more in depth. So I'll try not to bore you too much. But November 18th, which was a Tuesday, Cloudflare experienced what they may be calling their worst outage since 2019, resulting in widespread service disruptions that lasted about 6 hours. So this incident did have a cascading failure, which is, again, it kind of fluctuated up and down, and it disrupted quite a few services. And so these services included content deliveries, security services, and performance optimization to websites. And so one of the victims was like ChatGPT. And so anyway, so the error that most people saw was HTTP 5XX error status codes. It did block access to these platforms. And then the disruption was not caused directly or indirectly by cyber attack or malicious activity, according to the CEO. And I think they wanted to make sure that people understood that that was not the case. And basically what happened was the outage was triggered by a routine change applied to the permissions of one of Cloudflare's databases. This change caused a query used by a bot management system to return duplicate column metadata. And this is what caused the problem. So it generated an oversized configuration of what's called a feature file. This file doubled in size, and it grew from about 60 to over 200. And the hard-coded stop was a 200 limit. And this is what really was the problem. So engineers had a hard time finding the problem. They identified it, and then they took care of it. And so one of the other things is, I think, let me see if I can find it. There was something about the timeline. So the traffic flow was largely restored by 1430 UTC. And then they were saying they were fully operational by 1706 UTC. And so UTC is the term instead of using daylight savings time, and everyone on the planet basically uses UTC for this kind of reporting. All right, so one more time to break down the system, the bot management system, which you could call a bouncer that was trying to protect everything. And one of the key takeaways might be that they do use machine learning AI for the bot management systems. So the trigger was to update the ClickHouse permissions, and this is what accidentally generated the duplicates in the feature file. The fatal flaw is that the hard-coded limit of 200. And so once it went to like 201, you had a problem. And then here, the crash, the system hit the limit, triggered the automatic emergency stop to prevent the data corruption. So instead of ignoring the extra items, the core proxy system shut down and restarted repeatedly. And so also, full disclosure, some of the slides that you'll see are a little bit different than my normal slides. And yes, I used Google Gemini to try to create some of these slides because I'm just not as creative as I used to be, or at least I thought I used to be. And so here's the timeline again. Issue started with the bot management system, which acts like the bouncer, and it was trying to keep the bad traffic out. Due to the permissions error, which is basically the bug of this, the software had a strict hard-coded limit of do not go over 200. And once it did that, that's what caused the problem. So instead of just ignoring the extra items, software hit an automatic emergency stop, known as a rust panic. This is the safety feature designed to prevent the data corruption. In this particular situation, though, what it did was it shut down everything completely. And the reason why it flickered, though, is because that it was rolled out slowly. So some servers had the bad list and some didn't. So every 5-minute check, if it hit one that had the bad information or the bad list, you would get the error and you wouldn't be able to proceed. If you hit a good one, you were okay. So the engineers had a difficult time tracking that. But once they figured it out, they did a good job. All right, so here's the breakdown of the timeline again. So it started at 11:05 UTC, the change was initiated, and then 11:20, the issue was triggered. 11:28, the people started noticing the impact. 11:32, the incident was declared. So in about 27 minutes, they were basically telling everybody what was going on. Maybe automated monitoring systems detected a massive spike, and the engineering team declared a critical incident at 12 UTC. Engineers initially suspected a DDoS attack because of the way it was coming across on their monitors, and then at 13:37, the root cause identified that it was a feature file was oversized and causing the rust panic. The mitigation was the engineers stopped the generation of the new feature, and they deployed a known older version, the last known good state. The recovery began at 14:30, and at 17:06, they declared that the incident was resolved. So here's the impact. So I already mentioned ChatGPT, but major platforms were affected. So the articles mentioned ChatGPT, Spotify, and Canva. Services like Turnstile and Workers KV went down as well. The errors again, the global users saw 502 bad gateway, the network flickered as queries ran every 5 minutes. Services down, impact extended to dashboard access, email security, internal tools, etc. And then the financial disruption, of course, companies that relied on CloudFlare lost business and or active time online so that people could access their services if they wanted. And so here's some of the terms and acronyms. And so there's a lot of terms in this one. And so I'm going to go over them quickly. I will put links to everything in the video description, but there's quite a few terms on this one. And so the 5XX errors, these are error codes that appear in your browser to indicate the problem is on the website. So a lot of people are used to seeing like the 404 not available. ARPANET, I spelled this wrong. No, I didn't. ARPANET. So the original precursor to the modern internet, funded by the U.S. government in the 60s. And so some of the articles that I read referenced how ARPANET was a little more decentralized, and now we are more centralized with all our stuff, and that's what causes these massive problems, like with Cloudflare, Amazon Web Services, and some of these Google downtimes. More terms: bot management system, the security tool to act as a bouncer for websites. It checks visitors are real humans, etc., and they're bots. And so these systems can use machine learning and artificial intelligence to do some of this. And so it will be interesting to find out, was it a human error or was it the bot management system and part of the AI system that caused this? Cascading failure. That is what we were calling the fluctuation or the flickering. It's a chain reaction when one small failure triggers the failure of other parts. And actually, I was wrong. It was not the fluctuating. This is actually the domino effect. I'm sorry. So CDN is Content Delivery Network, and basically it's a network of servers distributed globally, and they provide internet content like videos, images, and stuff like that, and just basic information. ClickHouse, it's a high-performance database system used by Cloudflare to store and analyze these massive amounts of data. And then down here I have a incident context. This is a specific database system where the engineers were trying to update permissions when the error occurred. So the ClickHouse database system was where they were trying to update the information, and this is again where the error occurred. So we have again, we have quite a few terms. So let's see if we can get through the ClickHouse query. Basically, think about like SQL and other databases. This is a specific command or question to retrieve information. Database permissions, these are rules that decide who or what is allowed to view or edit data. So a mistake here is what triggered the incident. DDoS, distributed denial of service. It's a cyber attack where malicious actors flood a server with traffic to knock it offline. And so, again, this was not a DDoS, but this, I think, the initial symptoms, people jumped to the conclusion that it may be a DDoS. And domain name system, DNS, this is the phone book of the internet, and this is something that will always be affected by some of these errors. And so protect your DNS. Features, so this is a specific piece of information or a clue that the security system used to identify if a visitor is a bot or whatever. And then a feature file is a configuration list containing the rules or the features that the software needs to load to do its job. Hard-coded limit, this is where we were talking about if the limit was do not exceed 200 and files were being duplicated and the information was being duplicated. I think 60 was actually maybe the original limit or the norm, and then 200, once it hit 201, that's when things were challenged. The ISP, the Internet Service Provider, this is the company you pay for internet access, like I use Verizon. Machine learning, or AI, this is a type of artificial intelligence where software learns from data instead of following a fixed rule book. And so again, an advanced detection system relies on machine learning models to adapt to new threats. And so again, it will be interesting to see if it gets drilled down deep enough to find out how the machine learning, the artificial intelligence was involved in this incident. And then here's some summary and key takeaways. Fragility of scale. This basically means a single configuration can impact 20% of the internet. So this was an example of how one small thing affected so many companies and so many people. And then safety versus stability. So there was a kill switch basically. So the panics protect the data but kill uptime. So balance is crucial. Validation is key. Never trust inputs even from your own internal systems. Fail gracefully. Systems should degrade rather than just collapse or fail. So the mitigations that could occur or could be considered: input validation, strict checks on configuration files before they reach the edge or they hit that hard limit, and then the kill switch goes into gear. Removal of hard limits, that's what we just said. Replace hard panics with soft limits. Truncate data instead of crashing. Graceful failure handling, kind of along the same lines. Catch the errors and log them. Allow the traffic to continue, or basically I think they call it fail open. Circuit breakers, isolate non-critical features. If a bot management system fails, core proxy stays up. Canary deployments, test updates on smaller server sets first before global rollout. So, and maybe they did and they didn't pick up on it, or they did a canary deployment but they didn't do it exactly the way that they did it in the real world. Incident reporting, even though this was not a crime, just a reminder that there are options for incident reporting when you think that you have had been a victim of a cyber crime, and this information is here. And so I always supply this slide, so I will continue to do it. Credits again and references. Images were created in Google Slides. Images were created in Google Gemini. The main sources that I read for this was the CloudFlare postmortem. The news sources was Bleeping Computer, and some of the other coverage was the Guardian TechCrunch. Here is a just courtesy slide and acknowledgement of some of the images you saw. Again, this is where some of the AI from the slide creations, this is where some of the images were created or pulled from. And again, one more time, CloudFlare, they had a challenge. They survived it. We survived it. They are in recovery mode and maybe a little bit of PR mode. And we hope that they learned and other companies have learned. And hopefully we can experience fewer of these many less than what we have. And good luck to all of us, right? So thank you for listening. Have a good day. Bye bye.